We welcome you back to our program. As we mentioned, tomorrow is Election Day, and lots of important issues facing us at the local level, state level, and of course nationally as well. Joining us today, a gentleman who has run for office before and has been elected to office before. Mr. Mike Glover is with us today. He's running for the Democratic nomination for the 70th Assembly District. Mike, welcome back to the show. Good to have you back with us today.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
This is a race that will have no incumbent. The gentleman who holds this office is termed out and, in fact, is running for their office. So it's an open seat as such, so we have several Democrats and Republicans running. Rather sad kind of subnote to all this, one of the Republican candidates had a very tragic situation happen this week, lost one of his children.
That's right, and my condolences go out to Mr. Wagner's his family. I'm a father of a 32-year-old boy and a 29-year-old girl and a 3-year-old to-be grandchild, and to have to bury one of your own at such a young age and a vibrant kid who was helping him with his campaign, it's just really, really tragic. And so I just want you, Don, if you're out there, to know you and your family, to know we're all thinking about you and you in our prayers.
Right. Obviously, we've had Don on before as a candidate, but also in his role as a trustee with the college district as well. Well, let's talk about some of the issues that all of you will be discussing in this election, in this race, and one happens to be education. You know, for years and years, California led the nation with innovative schools and all the right stuff and the community college system and all. Now our numbers are way down there in the low 40s. What do we attribute it to, and more importantly, what would Mike Glover do to maybe turn it around?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question, and I want to thank TV6 and you for having me back on the air. I just brought two articles. The first from the actually Orange County Register yesterday, Companies Enjoy Prop 13 Quirk, and this is from the local section of the Register just yesterday. And the point that they make there is that companies have been able to avoid property taxes under Prop 13 when there hasn't been a change of ownership of more than 50%. And they use Disney as an example, and the point of education is funding. Property taxes traditionally funded local school districts, cities, counties, police and fire. And when I was in Kansas legislature in 1970, we had the same explosion of property taxes. And instead of giving everybody, rich, poor, and in the middle, property tax relief, we targeted that property tax relief to people that are on fixed incomes, low incomes. We didn't give it to the biggest ranchers, the biggest oil producers, the biggest homeowners in Kansas. And therefore, we were able to avoid the problem that Prop 13 was fixing out here, but at the same time not give it to the people that didn't need it. It's more of a progressive way of doing things. And the point is that we've lost ground in education because, first of all, the revenue stream is much more up and down because the local school districts have been depending on the state general fund, which primarily gets money from income and sales tax, which go up and down. So the revenue source hasn't been straight and consistent, and consequently, the support for public education hasn't been there. And at the same time, the state's ability to finance higher education has been diminished because so much of the state general fund has to replace the property taxes that big oil, big Disney, and I hate to pick on people, the Irvine Land Company, the people that are the big rich property owners have had a property tax break for the last 31 years. And so the fundamental basis of funding education has been eroded partially because of Prop 13, and it needs to be reformed through a split roll.
Right. So you would favor keeping it for the homeowners.
Absolutely.
But for these big landowners and large corporations,
they would have to pay the fair market
tax basis there. Well, that gets us into a discussion on the economy, and obviously we've all heard what's going on in California. Every year now it seems like the budget debate is longer and more fierce and more partisan. The governor tries to step in, the various legislators try to step in. We're still in major deficits in California. Your party, the Democrats, says let's raise taxes, let's not cut any programs. Republicans say no, 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 we don't want to raise taxes, we want to cut programs. Is there a compromise in the middle, or would Mike Glover come down on all that?
First of all, we need new revenue. We've got about a $20 billion deficit at the state level, and it's not getting any better. Although no one likes to talk about legalizing drugs per se, the way we tax cigarettes and tobacco and how we can tax marijuana and the money estimated to be up to $5 billion a year from property sales and income tax of marijuana was going to help. Richard Milhouse Nixon, his commission back in 1972, recommended that we do something like this.
That is on the ballot, by the way.
And it is on the ballot in November, but as a proponent of something like that back in Kansas, and someone who was able to actually get progressive legislation passed in Kansas, I've been on that bandwagon, if you will, for the last 40 years. We do not have a severance tax in California. We could raise about $2.5 billion that way. Now we're up to $7 billion. We don't tax internet sales like we could and should. That could bring in a little bit more money. And at the same time, you know, I'm sure that there's some reorganization and some savings that we can take place at the state level. Prisons is a classic example of where we spend $90,000 a year to put someone in a single cell for that's on death row. It's about $30,000 to $35,000 a year, just general population. Most of the people that go back to prison go back for seemingly minor offenses. A lot of times they're drugs, a probation violation. I'm not saying we ought to give those people a total free ride. I'm just saying I think we need more community-based corrections that have and more money for probation and parole officers so that we can lower the cost per individual of supervision. So I think there are some savings, and at the same time we're going to have to raise some revenue.